Welcome. We are officially recording. Okay, so what we're going to do today is look at least three models where we're going to play with the structure of the covariance variance matrix. But essentially what we're really going to do is focus on the correlation matrix because it's actually easier to think about and work with. All right, so I'm going to go back and do the same thing we did yesterday. So I'm looking at So I'm going to go into, I'll use my X quartz or whatever X terminal you're using. Let me zoom in so you can see where I'm actually at. Make this one as big as possible. All right, so SH-Y scc.light-light.du.edu. Okay. Password. All right, so I'm going to bring up my X data file. I'm sorry, I'm going to log X data. I'm going to turn on Stata. And I kind of have to zoom out a bit so I can get this in one screen. Okay. Zoom in a bit more. All right, and what I'm going to do is, all right, so I should be able to say, use behave space congeneric, and I actually created after I had opened my Stata data file, I actually saved it as a Stata data file, so a DTA file. Okay, so if you didn't do that yesterday, that's perfectly fine. What you can do is go back to File, Open.
On Blackboard, it was a DAT file.
I was a DAT file,
Yeah.
DAT.
Yeah.
Stata's is DTA.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, it's a slightly different version. Kind of like the SP. It has additional information tags in it. So if you just use the import, and it's either, if you've got the older version, it's text data created by a spreadsheet, or it's text with delimiters. All right, so that should bring up the file. All right, so let me scroll down a little bit again so we can kind of see the screen. All right, so what I'm going to do now is, if you're looking at the handout that I just gave you, it just kind of summarizes the data. I think I said that it was the sociability. I think I actually mixed up my scales yesterday. I said questions 1, 2, 3, 10, and 14 were the sociability scale. It's actually, those were the attentiveness scale. So those are the first ones that are listed at the top of this page. And for now, we're just going to keep our attention on those. Okay. And what we're going to do, what I'm going to do to start, is I'm actually going to generate the correlation matrix. Okay. So I want to do the following. Correlate, and then I want to tell it what variables, Q1 through Q3, Q10, and Q14. Fingers crossed, this should give me the correlation matrix for those items. Yeah, sure.
I can't figure out how to
Get it in?
Yeah. Do you want it
Yep.
as a tab delimited?
Yes, bring it in as a tab delimited.
Okay.
And then set that there.
And what is the
It runs it, but keeps the dialog open, so you could do multiple things at once. But in this case, you just want to say
So there's no paste for syntax.
no, because Stata always retains the syntax. Exactly. Yeah. So it kind of keeps a running dialogue of your syntax for you. Mm-hmm. All right, so again, what I've typed in. Now, if you know, remember, the nice thing about Stata is once you start doing things, you can actually start chopping stuff off. So I think I could also just type CORR for correlate, and I actually get the same results.
Did you type in use behave congeneric?
Yep, it would be.
It didn't like that I did that.
No, because you got yours in already. So I already read it in.
Oh.
I already created, so afterwards I'll show you how to save this, and then you can use that command instead. Yeah. But for now, just, yeah, you don't worry about that one just yet. So again, let me just point on the screen here again. We've got CO, so if we spell out correlate in full, we'll actually get the command Stata will let you chop off as many letters as is possible so that it can still recognize the one single command it knows you're looking for. Now, it took me a while to figure this one out yesterday, and then when I found it, I was like, that doesn't make sense at first, then I realized what it was. So if I, on the other hand, were to type CORR, Q1 to Q3, Q10, Q14, comma, space C, it actually generates the covariance matrix. Because, lo and behold, if you find the right website, it tells you. If not, you have to recognize C is actually short for covariance. So in other words, it's calculating the correlation matrix and the covariance matrix. The default is to report the correlation matrix. So if you put comma C, it gives it that additional parameter to give you the actual covariance matrix. Between which ones?
Between anything. Well, I guess not between the variables. But
Yeah, variables are needed there.
But for the comma.
I don't think so. I don't think it is. I think once it sees the comma, I think it recognizes it. Now again, so what that shorthand that I have there is actually shorthand for correlate Q1 through Q3, Q10, Q14, comma, covariance. And that actually gives the other result. Now, again, it makes our lives a little easier to do the analysis with the correlation matrix instead of the covariance matrix. So I'm going to take the two of them here. Now, fingers crossed, I should be able to copy this into Excel. Please, 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 please. Well, I got to zoom back in to find my Excel, don't I? I'm going to try pasting this into Excel and try something. Okay. This should let me fixed width. Yep, it recognized it. I'll do the same one here, fixed width. All right, so all I'm doing right now is moving them into Excel so I can come back and talk about them in a little bit with the actual numbers. So let me go back to Stata. I will zoom back into this so we can see it. All right. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I've got the correlation matrix. I've just taken this data and I've summarized it I've stored it in my Excel file. What I'm going to do now is do the CFA. So I'll do SEM. I'm going to call it, so it's actually attentiveness, so I'll call it ATT is, AT&T influences Q1 through Q3, Q10, and Q14. So this is the shorthand notation to get Stata to run the factor analysis for a one-factor model where we've got all 5 of our manifest items on the one factor. Okay. And it's run it, and it's given me my output, and so far everything's good and fine. But to make my comparison, I'm actually going to tell it, well, give me the SEM, but do it standardized. All right. No, the SEM standardized says just take the last output. So SEM, comma.
So you have to run SEM and then
yep, run.
Add
yep.
And then first.
Yep. Yeah, run this one first. So the attentiveness pointing to Q1. And then once that's in sort of Stata, I'm not 100% certain about this. My understanding of Stata is it has a working data set, it has a working set of output, and then your list of commands. And those are sort of the big things it's using. Any new output replaces what was there, but like a regression output won't replace an SEM output. So it knows the SEM output's there, and if I were to do something else, not SEM related, it may give me some output. But if I go back then and type SEM, comma, standardized, it knows which output to go back and look at, and it's where it's storing that information. All right, so if you bear with me a second, what I'm going to take these values and actually put them in Excel. Q1, Q2. So right now I'm just pulling off the values that were given for the standardized paths. So I've just taken off those values, and the reason I wanted to do that is I can actually kind of quickly here, give me just a second, I can actually generate what the so I'm going to generate the estimated correlation matrix, covariance matrix, excuse me. So this is the estimated covariance matrix. Let me zoom in on this one, and I'll explain what I just did here. All right, so this is the path for Q1, the Q2, Q3, Q10, and Q14. So right here, this is the standardized coefficient path. This is essentially the factor loading or the weight that attentiveness has on Q1. 0.85, so that's a pretty strong. In other words, if we square that, that's over 70%. So in other words, we're saying that this factor that we think is out there that we can't quite measure seems to be influencing our one variable, the Q1, a fair amount. And in fact, we actually see it's pretty high for most of these values. Now, consequently, what I notice is that Q2 has a factor weight, Q3. These are all standardized. So what this actually means is this is directly interpretable as Q3 has a correlation of 0.8645 with the latent factor. Now that's really powerful because I can't see or measure the latent factor, but I have the ability to tell you what its correlation with this measured thing is. What's happening?
I can't